Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on True Confessions, Naija. The confession you're about to listen to comes from a message we received from one of our brothers, and the message reads like this. Good evening, Uncle Ori. Hello, everyone. Please hide my identity. I'm sharing this story not because I'm proud of it, but because the weight of it is too heavy for me to carry alone. For years, I have lived with secrets, with memories that still haunt me in the night. And now, I want the world to hear my confession. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that everything I'm about to say is true. Growing up, my siblings and I were never like other children. We didn't live like normal kids, and we didn't play like normal kids. We lived under strict vows and rules that were handed down to us by our parents. These rules were not just suggestions. They were commands, orders we had to obey at all costs. My parents, my father and my mother, were not ordinary people. They lived in the city, in a big house that they were so proud of. But that house was not built with hard work or sweat. No, that house was built with blood. It was built with dark rituals. By the time we were born, my parents were already living in the city. They had left the village behind, but what they carried with them was much darker. In our home, everything was unusual. My siblings and I were made to do strange rituals, things we could not understand. At first, we did them because we were told to, and in our culture, you did not question your parents. But deep down, even as children, we knew something was wrong. I remember the day I turned 12 years old. That day is carved into my memory like a wound that never heals. I came home from school, still wearing my uniform, and as I stepped inside, I saw my father sitting beside my mother. But that day, they were not alone. With them was another man, a man I had never seen before. My parents introduced him to us as the family doctor. Something about him scared me. His eyes looked cold. He didn't smile. My mother told me to call my two brothers. We gathered, but my sisters were told to wait in another room. My mother said she would call them later. The next thing I knew, the so-called doctor pulled out syringes. He gave us injections. At first, I thought it was just medicine. But within minutes, my head grew heavy. My eyes blurred. My body gave up. We collapsed into sleep. When I woke up, everything was different. I was outside. It was dark. My brothers were with me, but we were naked. Around us stood strange men. Their faces were covered. They wore black blankets over their heads and bodies, hiding everything about who they were. But I recognized one voice, my father's. The men were singing in a strange tone, passing a tortoise between them. Each man sprinkled a red liquid, thicker than water, almost like blood, onto the tortoise. Fear burned inside me. I tried to move, but I was too weak. One of the men noticed me regaining consciousness. He walked over, his boots heavy on the ground, and with no mercy, he kicked me so hard I collapsed again. That was the first ritual I remembered, but it wasn't the last. From that day on, my childhood was filled with nightmares that weren't just in my head. These rituals continued. They became part of our lives. We never told anyone. How could we? Who would believe children saying such things? And even if we spoke out, our parents made sure fear chained our mouths shut. Sometimes I used to wonder, were we caused to be born in this family? Why us? Why me? Then came the day everything changed. My parents told us they were going on a holiday trip. They packed their bags, smiled and left. That was the last time I ever saw them alive. Later that night, strange men arrived at our home. Their faces were serious, their voices heavy. They told us that our parents had died in an accident. Just like that, both of them gone instantly. We wanted to go to the funeral. We wanted to cry over their graves, but we were forbidden. They told us we could not attend. Instead, because I was the firstborn, they said I was the only one who could go with them to the mortuary to identify the bodies. That night is something I will never forget. When we arrived at the hospital late, at the gate, the security guard refused to let us in. But then, I saw with my own eyes, those men bribed him with stacks of money, and suddenly, the gates opened. We walked through the dark hospital grounds, heading to the back where the mortuary was, and there, waiting for us, was the same doctor, the same man who had injected us years ago. He was wearing his hospital coat with a name tag on his chest. I read it then. I swore I will never forget it. But now, as I grow older, my memory fades. Inside the mortuary, I saw my parents lying on cold tables. Their bodies were covered with black blankets. The men surrounded them, just like they had surrounded me and my siblings when we were children. And then they began to pray. But the language they used was strange, foreign, dark. When the ritual ended, the doctor turned to me. He handed me a piece of paper. On it was an oath, a vow, and rules. He made me swear on the bodies of my dead parents, swear that as their firstborn, I would follow every single rule written there. Trembling, with no choice, I swore. After that night, our lives became a prison. The men took us to another house. It belonged to a friend of my parents. He became our so-called guardian, but he didn't live with us. He just checked in from time to time. We grew up alone in that big house without parents, and the house was not peaceful. Sometimes, late at night, we would see our dead relatives inside the house. Their ghosts would stand in the kitchen, in the toilet, in the hallways, covered in blood. They would stare at us with empty eyes, and then disappear into the walls. Whenever this happened, I remember my parents' instructions. They told us that if we see such spirits appear, we should use the vows. The same vows written on the curse paper. And yes, when we did, the spirits left. But when they left us, they tormented our relatives elsewhere. It was a cruel cycle, a curse we could not escape. For years, I carried the biggest secret of my life. Even when I identified my parents' bodies, I never told my uncles, my aunties, or any relatives. I kept it hidden, just like those men told me to do. Even now, as I speak, my heart is heavy. Sometimes I wonder, were my parents victims too? Or were they willing participants in something darker than we could ever imagine? All I know is that the vows they left us with are still here. We are still bound by them. And sometimes, in the silence of the night, I still hear the singing. The same songs those men sang when I was 12. This is my confession. This is my family secret. I don't know if sharing this will free me or cost me even more. But I had to tell it. I had to let it out because silence is killing me slowly. Dear listeners, thank you for hearing me out. What I have shared today is only a part of the darkness I grew up in. Hopefully by speaking out, I can finally begin to heal. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to us by one of our brothers. Let us try to talk to him in the comment section. Things they really happening for this our world. Now wow.